upon a modern time in a little cul-de-sac. Black characters from myth and rhyme decided to come back. They moved into a cuter house, they bought a boat and car. They got a job, they got a spouse, they're ready to go far. This modern life, with all its strife, is wilder than before. You won't forget the day you met the fables next door. You won't forget the day you met the fables next door.
A smile on your brow. Put a little madness in your life. If life makes you out of shape and comics are your estate, put a little madness in your life. Come give your mind a cleanse. Tune in with pops and friends. Just turn on your Roku box and then put a little madness in your in the heart of the city lives a building divinity. She holds the power to heal, a gift that feels too real. Her brother stands by her side, keeping secrets they can't hide. In shadows they must run, chased by everyone. Silverline in the dark, guiding hearts like a spark. Silverline in the night, divinity's alive. Enemies close and tight, searching for her light. Brothers vow to protect in a world so wrecked. They dream of a world in peace, where pain and tears would cease, hoping for a brighter day, where divinity's safe. Silverline in the dark, guiding hearts like a spark. Silverline in the night, divinity's alive.
Ladies and gentlemen, Barb Kaalberg. Welcome
Wow.
back.
I love the song. That was awesome.
It's I got bored. So when I get bored, I do stupid things. Um,
And right
I've been
after the
playing around with
Silverline song too. By the way, I came up with, that phrase, "Make mine Silverline," so
it.
that was thrilling.
It works. So, and I told Ron, I was like, because I showed him last night. I'm like, you're not gonna be there? Okay, come on. It was midnight, and he's getting ready to leave like 4 in the morning to go somewhere. Or to Orlando. Probably was I maybe he's flying to SDCC. I don't know.
No, I think he's going to visit his mom.
Okay. Well, it was like 1 in the morning his time, and I was like, look at this video. Look, watch this. It was just luck that the Silverline animated logo hit that white flash right there at the guitar crash. I'm like, don't move it. Don't wherever everything else goes, lock that in place.
That was beautiful.
It was fun. Welcome back. It's been a while since we've talked, and
Couple minutes.
specifically about Divinity.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
Go ahead.
no, I was just say it's always interesting talking about because we say, hey, you know what? You've got a book called Divinity. Now let's talk about everything else in the comic industry, and then by the end of the show, we'll talk about Divinity again.
Yeah. Well, I do podcasts too every Wednesday night, and it seems like no matter how much you try to drive the bus or drive the train, it's going to go off the rails. It always does.
Yeah.
That's half the fun.
Speaking of going off the rails, Heisenberg has entered the scene.
Oh, the baby.
Want to say hi to the people? Look at
See,
that.
now that's a star right there.
Yeah. She getting fidgety, but she normally is like, I just pick her up and I pet her. She's like, okay, yeah, put me down whenever you're. Yeah. Oh, you're her. No. It's weird. I can tell them apart in the dark. I mean, they get in bed with me and then they're like pushing against my back. Like, okay, there. But like I reach over and the calico has got like a coarse, wiry hair, and
Mhm.
she's like an ermine. It's just so plush. I'm like, okay, that's you. That's you. You're back. She didn't want to be put down. She wants to stand on my printer, which is next to a window, which is where the fly is.
Oh, well, come
Yeah.
on. You gotta let her have her chance at the fly,
Yeah.
because
Which
that's like
means
a
I should
given.
probably move this stack of Mylar here because I have a
Probably, yeah.
feeling they're just going to go. There. Is that better? Here, I'll move these two. Yeah, Daddy went to the flea market, and I don't play the game. I don't play role playing games, but I saw these things.
Oh,
I was like,
Mr.
I remember
Mix
these.
Fix.
Yeah,
Yes.
the DC Heroes games. I was like, I actually had the core system. Never played it. No one would play it with me.
I did. There was a bunch of trading cards they did for that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I did a
think.
bunch of them. I did a bunch of trading cards for DC for various ventures. That was a sweet gig. I love doing the trading cards.
They had, and I've only seen them offered individually now on eBay at outrageous prices, and I had the set. There's a whole show I could do about ex-wives and cleaning out stuff. But there was a set of postcards that George Perez had drawn the entire lineup of the Justice League during the George Perez era of it.
Mhm.
And on top of that, I had two of the Batman cards, and one of the Vigilante. The Vigilante series had just come out with Adrian Chase.
Yep.
Logo card. I had the whole thing, and now they're like $40 a card. If you're looking on eBay.
I have the set of all the cards that I did. I have them in a book binder, and yeah, just one of each, so they'll go down with the ship with me. No selling.
No, don't do that. But really, you should have had more. They should have comped you more than just the one.
Well, they probably did, but I probably sold those at. But
There you go.
I always keep one of everything I've ever done. Every book that I've done, every cover, every a card. Actually, I've done VHS sleeves too for Speed Racer. And I
Oh.
keep I keep one copy of everything I've ever done in binders just to look back on. And I've gone back to them many times to say, who was the penciler on this again? I've had so many. And then I'll have to go back and look at it. Or what year did this come out again? And I'll have to go through all my binders and look at it.
Do you keep the original artwork that you've inked?
I keep some. I only have one piece left from the 90s, and it's an impulse piece over Ethan Van Sciver.
Oh,
It's the only piece I have left of that run. I spent 2.5 years on Impulse, so all the
yeah.
Craig Rousseau pages have sold, and all but this one, and I won't sell this one because it's my own personal piece that I like the best.
Yeah, and you could, pay off your house with it probably by now.
Probably, yeah. And I've this is my studio that you see behind me, and I've got several of originals that I've done or other people have done. For instance, I've got a beautiful Kevin West piece up here that he did for my first issue of Divinity, and another piece for Divinity cover that was done by Mel Ruby, and I couldn't part with them. I sold them. I actually sold them on my first Kickstarter, and I bought them back myself off my own damn Kickstarter
Oh,
because I couldn't part with them.
I hear you. Pops is out there. Hey, Pops, how you doing? Glad to
Pops!
see you chiming in. Normally you guys are over on the Madness Network,
Yes,
with the Silverline show. So
I do the
I
Wednesday
I
Wham. I co-host the Wednesday Wham on Wednesday nights for Silverline.
so if you guys want to watch, more Silverline stuff and find out everything that's going on and find out, basically an AMA with Barb on Wednesdays, go subscribe to the Madness Network over on YouTube. There, get their numbers up. They
Yep.
could use a boost. Who
And
could?
Roland does Sunday nights, and TK does Tuesday nights. So we do 3 podcasts a week for Silverline.
That's a lot of show. I used to try to do it every night. If I had an
Yeah.
open night, I would panic and be like, "Okay, who wants to come on my show? Come on, come on." I
And
got
we
to the
run
point
into
like,
that problem
"Why?"
too. We have regulars, and then all of a sudden it seems like everybody's got a conflict on the same night, and then you're stuck by yourself, and you panic. So
Yeah.
you're scrounging for anybody. Come on the show. I'll put you on.
Well, you know how to reach me. I'll be glad to help out. So is this the first time you guys have gone to fund my comic with Divinity?
It is. It's always been Kickstarters in the past. So we started at the beginning of the year trying Fund My Comic. Um, and it's a little bit different setup than Kickstarter, but you basically get the same thing. You have a chance to get original art, and there is some beautiful pieces for sale for Divinity. The Kevin West cover, which I actually have right here. The Kevin West cover is sold, and I think a couple of other pieces have sold, but there's a lot left. I got to show you this piece. This is the Kevin West cover, and it is
Take this
just
thing down so we can.
yeah, it is just gorgeous.
Yes, it is.
And that's
That's bigger than 11 by 17. That's huge.
that is. It's a regular comic book page size. Yeah, that's the main cover. That's the A cover. That's for sale. And then we have 2 other covers to choose from as well, and a bunch of original art from some amazing artists, and any back issue of any Silverline book that you want is also available on there. So if you're jumping on for the very first time with Divinity number 4, and you want to say, well, what happened in the previous issues, you can get them all. You can get them all the back issues. You can get the back issues of any other Silverline book. So if you're into Cat and Mouse, which I also worked on, you can get them all. And that was the same as what it was on Kickstarter. So fortunately, it hasn't strayed too far from that, and we like that people can get all the back issues. On the back end, it's a little bit harder accounting wise. I'm also the
Gotta maintain
CFO.
inventory. Yeah.
I'm also the CFO of Silverline, so that's always fun.
You can talk art. You can talk money.
Oh yeah. Well, at the big implosion in the 2000s, early 2000s in comics, when the industry kind of hit a bump.
Yeah, another one.
Yes, another one. I had been working for 12 years full time as a comic book artist, and myself and a lot of my contemporaries found ourselves having to go back into the Muggle world and find jobs and do comics on the side, and including me. And I had been an accountant before, so I went back into accounting, and I ended up in corporate accounting. which
Oh,
was, yeah, I know it's a real right brain, left brain thing. You can do comics on one side and accounting on the other. Wow, how do you do that? But it worked. I'm just equally as anal in both professions. Um,
I barely passed accounting, and I barely passed accounting. I had to take 2 classes of it, barely passed both of them, for my IT degree, and apparently it's all because I missed a day in the first week where they're like, "Oh, these account things that we're giving you here, they're consistent. Everyone uses the same numbers for everything." Like, "Oh, it's a code. This is okay then. I can understand code." It wasn't until I was in my late 40s that I had to write a program for an accountant. He's like, "Don't you know that the general ledger is this?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know what your general ledger is." Like, they're all the same. These are here. Take this
they
sheet of
aren't.
paper. This is where everything comes from.
They aren't. Every company has
They aren't. Okay.
their own numbers for general ledgers. So
Well, there you go.
and when I got back into it, I hadn't done it for a couple of dozen years, and I had to learn on the run. So I had taught myself accounting the same way I taught myself digital coloring. I went to the University of YouTube,
There you go. I didn't.
and taught myself how to do a spreadsheet. Because when I first got into accounting, back way back in, it was punch cards.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's
We're gonna trim this part out because we don't want anybody thinking, "Whoa, she's how old now?"
I have no problem telling people I'm 65. I didn't
I
start doing digital comics until I hit 60.
I'm 57, and I my first career was at the Air Force Base, writing code for them as a civilian contractor,
Oh yeah?
and we were
Air
in
Force.
COBOL code, and it's like every time that we had to add a new
Oh,
field to the record, a defined data record, like, well, okay, we're adding 3 characters to it for extended palette labels. I'm like, okay, like, but we only got like a bit open here and 2 bits open here. I'm like, just extend it, make it. They're like, no, it has to be an 80 column record. Why? Because the regs were written when we had punch cards, and that was as many punches as you could put on the card across was 80. Like, but it's not. It doesn't matter. The regs state. It's like,
yep, the
okay,
regs. I get you because I'm a military mom. My son's 21 years now in the full-time Air Guard. So he's a master sergeant now, and he's been deployed 7, 8 times now, 5 times in theater.
oh,
So yeah, I'm
thank you for me.
oh well.
I didn't do it. All I did was send people out. I worked for Transportation Command, so I was there during Desert Storm. That was our beta test of the
Yeah.
software. It's like we moved to town overseas with the software. It
Well,
worked. Okay.
following with the military theme is one of the reasons that I wrote the character of Zach in Divinity.
Yeah,
As a
because he's
Marine, I wanted a military presence because obviously I'm kind of wrapped up in the military life, and I'm also very very picky about the armaments, the sidearms. Like uh, uh, the Marines carry, oh shit, a 1911, and Olivia, the Marine that she's carrying a Mossberg 500 in the series. I'm real picky about getting the armaments right. Right. I was raised with a gun collector, my father,
okay.
who's still living on the same farm that he was raised on, and he's 87, still putters around, does his thing. So I'm very picky about getting all the armaments right, and picky about military terms, because I've been in my father's a veteran, my son is an active military, and my daughter-in-law too. She's a weekend warrior, but she's also been in the Guard for 20 years.
They get called up. I
Josh has been gone to war 5
yeah,
times.
yeah.
3
One
times
of
in
my
Iraq and
managers went,
twice in Afghanistan. So
yeah, my manager went to Iraq. Interesting. He came back with interesting stories. He's like, yeah, we were talking like the post 9/11 Iraq
oh,
war.
yep.
He's like, we went to this one place, we pushed the door down, First guy just fell over coughing. We dragged him out by his feet. Next thing we know, the men in the moon suit showed up. They walked in. They carried out a bunch of tanks. We never heard a thing about it. They're like, but I heard there was. We never heard a thing
Heard about it.
it.
Mhm.
It's like,
Yeah,
okay, so it's like that.
something like that. Yeah, there's stuff you can't talk about. But it made me appreciate, obviously the military life and the people who are I don't want to say left behind, but support group behind you. I we do our bit. We have grandkids, and both of the my daughter and son and my son and daughter-in-law serve. So if they happen to be doing something at the same time, the grandparents, Nana and Papa, get the grandkids, and that's the way we serve. Is we handle things at home. So those who sit behind the lines also serve sometimes.
Absolutely, they do. It's important, to make sure that your sons and daughters can not have to worry about what they've left behind, so that they can do the job they're out there to do.
That's
Knowing
right.
everything's okay when they come back.
I will tell you one fun story though. The first time that Josh got deployed to Iraq, he sent a video home, and it was all these big, strong men. And my son looks like a superhero. He's 6'3", and then he's built like a brick shit house. And him and all of his buddies are standing around in a circle, and there is a camel spider in the middle of the circle. And every time it would dart towards one of them, they would scream like a bunch of little girls and run shrieking. And I'm like, yeah. He said, I'd rather have mortars. I'd rather have mortars falling around me than face a camel spider. Yeah, that's my son.
They're ugly little things. Are your kids cool with the comic thing? Because I keep telling people, I'm sure my son's like, just do it already. I keep saying I'm going to have a DNA test done because he's not comic books.
My kids aren't either, but the thing is, they were raised around it. I started doing comics when they were the oldest one went into kindergarten.
Okay.
So they were raised around it their whole life and just inundated with it. So I think they just were numb to it. They didn't really take to it. They're proud of me. They've got some of my art pieces on their walls, but they don't collect
Okay.
or read.
Yeah. My boy would rather he was reading HVAC manuals and weather books at 8, 9, 10 years old. That's his thing. He wants to read instruction manuals.
Well, they loved benefiting from it. Every time I came back from San Diego Comic-Con, I would bring goodies and stuff like that. And I brought back original artwork of the Ninja Turtles for Josh when he was like 4 or 5, 6 years old, and he was super into the Turtles. And I brought back sketches for him from Eric Larson and those guys, and he still has those. So they benefited from it. They just never got into it.
He liked Archie comics for a long time. I mean, we had a tall double-sided bookshelf, just Archie Digest. Must have been 2,000 books. Every time there was a new one, we bought it. He read it. He just read them to pieces. And along with the original artwork there, I did go to a convention where I found an artist, and I can't remember his name now. Darn it! He does a comic strip called Beardo, and he had all these different, Winnie the Pooh cast as the Avengers or as the Justice League. I'm like, can you draw an Archie style? He's like, artist, I can draw any style. So I had him draw. I gave him a picture of my son, and I said, I need the little Archies because my son was like 8 at the time. He had to get a reference for the little Archies. I wanted the Jan Parent kind of style. And I had this big picture of my son walking arm in arm with little Betty and little Veronica while little Archie's in the back trying to figure out what the hell just happened. And little Jughead's laughing his ass off at, Archie losing his girls to my boy. And I've got to find where that's at now because I want that hanging here. I don't want that hanging anywhere else. I want it hanging in his room in my place.
That's right.
So I'm going to have to remind him to find it. But he did like that. He hung that up next to his Pure Heart the Powerful #1 in the frame.
What's funny is that my son was huge. My daughter, was huge into the Turtles and Ghostbusters, and he had every turtle thing under the sun and every Ghostbuster thing under the sun. So when my grandson got to be, well, he's 5 now, so he was 4. He all of a sudden was huge into the Turtles. Everything was the Turtles, and so my son calls me and goes, you wouldn't happen to have any of my old turtle stuff, would you? I'm like, I have all of your turtles and your
Yes.
Ghostbuster stuff. I never threw anything away. It's all in totes.
Knew
Drag it
you'd want
all
it
back
someday.
out again.
Yes. Knew
But
you
it's
would want it someday.
yes, it's weird how things like the Ghostbusters and the Turtles and stuff like that are they go from generation to generation, and they whatever is old comes around new again. And it's
He-Man.
fascinating to watch.
He-Man, Transformers, it all does.
Star Wars.
Um, yeah. I don't know. I hope the Turtles doesn't go through something like, like comic books have gone through. It seems like comic books aren't having that resurgence again. They tried, and then it's like they always surged and then went away, and then surged and then went away. But when they went away, I don't remember, when Batmania came to an end in the early 70s. I don't remember anybody saying, "Well, that's it for Batman." DC Comics is dead. It just kind of went on normal, and then it surged again in the 89, and it surged again for comics with the MCU. But
But
now after the post MCU
yes,
it's
every time it comes back, though, it comes back a little less than it did before. And I think that's because, and this is just my own personal opinion, folks. Don't get up in the air. I think it's because they've rebooted everything too many times. We're gonna have to tell the origin story for the 50th time, and it just gets worn out. And I think, and don't get me wrong, I love DC and Marvel. I still collect some of them, especially Iron Man. Um, and I'm internally grateful to both because I mean DC kept me employed for like 10 years and Marvel for about like 8. But I think everything has been done to death for those 2 companies, and they're constrained by corporate bean counters as to what stories they can and can't tell. And I think independent comics is the wave of the future.
It is. I mean, yeah, every time I see a Flash movie or a Flash TV series, what's going to happen? Barry's mom's going to get killed by a time traveler. That didn't even happen in the comics until decades after. There's decades of story where mom was fine, dad was fine. He would go visit him on Sundays for dinner. We didn't need that angst, and now it's the only story they can tell. That's why I like the Batman so much, the Robert Pattinson Batman, because
Mhm.
wait a second, we're just jumping right into a police investigation with him walking in with Gordon. We
No
don't have to go through the
backstory?
Wayne being killed.
Yes. Yeah, that was
We don't have to.
refreshing.
Yes, very. We don't have to say, go through a whole business of who's that guy in the back. No, he's a known. It's like picking up an issue of Detective Comics in the 70s all over again. Like, yes, finally, thank you. Just tell the story, move on. I just bought it on Blu-ray because I realized that I didn't have a digital copy. I'd been watching it on HBO Max, and then it was gone.
I think I still like Christian Bale. That's my favorite Batman.
I liked him in the first and second one. The third one, I didn't like the story. Period. Not so much the third one because it was like, we really sped through the entire life of Batman in 3 movies. I will say my controversial take on the second movie is that we haven't had a live action Joker since Jack Nicholson. And people were like, well, what do you we had this guy, we had the other guy in Suicide Squad. I'm like, nope. We had homicidal maniacs who were serial killers who put on face paint and talked about anarchy, but you didn't have the 50,000 volt joy buzzers or the lethal laughing gas or the acid squirting flowers. You didn't have the Joker stuff. You
That's
just had
that's
the
that's a
guy.
good point. I hadn't thought about that, but you are correct. Although I really enjoyed Heath Ledger's take on the Joker, you are correct in that he was just an
He's
insane
an
villain.
anarchist. Yeah,
Mhm.
it could have been anybody. Could have
Yeah,
been wearing any costume.
yeah.
There was no joking to him. But speaking of comic books, Barb has one.
Yes, I
I told you that's where I was
do.
going to go.
Yes, I do.
And you can click the link right below the video, guys. If you're on YouTube, if you're on X, I will put the link into the chat so you can see it scroll across.
I'll give you a quick rundown about what Divinity is all about. A few years back, around 2018, I had this dream, and it came to me fully realized, and I remembered everything in the dream. Divinity was I had everything but the names in the dream. They were just nameless people, but Divinity, her brother Olivia. The reason I dreamt this dream, and it's not a happy story, so I don't mean to bring anybody down, but my brother was diagnosed with cancer, and it was stage 4 already. And I found that I obsessed about it. My sister and I, we obsessed about anything. We tried, like the juices and the vitamins and weed and everything else, because we didn't want to lose him. And I found myself kind of horrified at myself that I had zero morals where my brother was concerned. If I could have done anything, I would have to save him. And Divinity kind of came out of this, where she dreamt about this girl with powers that could heal, but unscrupulous people found out about it. It was supposed to be a big secret. The secret got out because she had a weaselly neighbor who saw her heal and squealed to some bad guys, and they sold the information to more bad guys, and eventually the story got out. The sad thing is my brother did not survive, but I would absolutely have kidnapped Divinity if I had to. You get desperate, but there's more to it than just people who are desperate for a cure. There's greedy people, there's unscrupulous people who would want her for study. There's pharmacies, big pharma, that probably wouldn't want her to survive at all.
Exactly. You take away the cure, you get rid of the treatment then.
That's right. There would be religious fanatics. If the general populace found out that you could cure, you wouldn't be able to step out your front door. I mean, you'd be mobbed constantly. It would be an impossible.
There's a story about this guy who was doing that, and apparently that's what happened to him.
Really?
You couldn't walk down the street without people grabbing at his clothes.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not a way to, any kind of a life to live. So the stories that could generate were just endless. Religious fanatics, which either would think that she's a deity or the devil. It's the possibilities for storylines were pretty endless. So I'd never written. I'd never scripted. Let's back up that boat. I'd never scripted. I've written all my life, and I'm a good creative writer. But I'd never scripted a comic before. So that's a completely different animal. I took this to Roland and I said, I have a story idea. He goes, well, write it up and we'll see, we'll see what happens. And I wrote up the outline and the plot and gave it to him. He goes, this is actually really good. Can you write it? And I said, I need help. I can write. I can't script. I need to learn how to script. So he brought R.A. Jones on board. R.A. has got a long history in comics and literature. So R.A. helped me script the first 4 issues. And then as of issue number 5, I took over all of it myself. As I learned as I went. The other thing was that I was 60 years old before I started doing any of this. All right. I had hit 60 and I'd been a comic book inker for everybody under the sun. Something like over 200 books, over 5,000 pages. Yeah. For 30 years, I'd done that. And I was getting a little too comfortable, And I told myself, if I was ever going to push the envelope and do something new, I better get off my ass and do it. So I started writing Divinity. And about that time, I developed a very minute tremor in my hand. Nobody would probably be able to notice it, but I noticed it. And if
Sure.
I can't turn out a perfect page, then I'm not going to do it. So even after I'd said, "Oh, I'll never do digital artwork because that's not real art." Yeah, yeah, I went digital and I love it. I'm faster at it. I turn up the smoothing control a little bit, and you can't even tell there was ever a tremor. So I told myself, as long as I'm going to go digital inking, I might as well teach myself how to color as well.
Sure.
So I went to the University of YouTube and took lots of tutorials and started coloring on. I used Procreate on an iPad. And as of issue 2, I took over the coloring as well for Divinity. So I was writing, inking, and coloring that. So it really is my baby. I subcontract the pencils because otherwise it would never get done. I'm too anal. I'd erase more than I draw, and nothing would ever come out. And off I went, and it's been very well received. 2020, it won the best new independent comic of the year. So I was very grateful for that. And the story of Divinity takes her and her brother on an adventure. He comes home from the Marines, and he was a hardcore Marine. I mean, he was going to devote his entire life to the Marines. And then his father and stepmother are killed in a mysterious car crash, and he is given a hardship discharge to come home and care for his only living relative, which is a little sister that he barely knows. I mean, they're 13 years apart. And they have nothing in common. And she's resentful of him because she barely knows him. So in the process of finding out what happened to the parents and discovering that there are nefarious forces after his sister, they have to learn how to become a family. So it's not only an action adventure, but it's a journey about found family, because then they hook up with his corporal from who's already gotten out of the Marines. Olivia Barnes was one of his Marine buddies. And they hook up with her, and they become a little family unit of their own, and they have to go on the run. So I always tell people that it's kind of like a cross between The Fugitive and Firestarter. If the girl in Firestarter could heal instead of start fires.
Yeah.
It's got an overarching theme of this evil cabal that want to get their hands on it, and as they're on the run, then they're going to have little subplots along the way.
Now, did Zach know what his sister could do, or did Divinity know what she could do?
Divinity knew, but her parents told her to keep it a secret. And Zach did not know. So in the first issue, he finds out and he's horrified. At first, he thinks that she's a freak. And he's not very fond of her at the first either, because she has disrupted his entire life. He doesn't even know this kid, but they grow together. And in issue 4, she's in the hands of the evildoers. Mr. Pinter, who's supposed to be reporting her powers to the Table of Five, which is the overarching cabal of evil people. But he decides that he's going to keep her for himself and pimp her services out.
Oh, sure.
And so in issue 5, she's currently in his clutches, and Olivia and Zach have to rescue her, but it's not going to be without issues, the rescue. So that's what's going on in issue 4. And I already have issues 5 through 16 plotted.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are there arc breaks in this? I mean,
Yes.
because
4 issue
writers,
arcs.
they write to the trade paperback and then think of,
Yep.
issues later.
Mhm. Yep. At the end of this 4 issues, they've gotten out of one tangle, but they're still on the run from the big bad. And so they're going to run into another issue in the next 4 issues, still on the run. So there's always going to be a complication in the background trying to stay under the radar, which is another thing that you'll notice is that they will always have old vehicles, because everybody knows now the new vehicles are low jacked. You can track a vehicle. My car has got Bluetooth. It hooks into my phone, and you can track my phone. You can track my car. So
Yep.
they're
I
always going
leave
to have,
Walmart often and just say, "Where did I park?" And
yeah.
get the
So you'll notice that they're always going to be driving older model cars that are pre electronics. I think in a future issue they're going to be in a station wagon. But, and I try to think logically. I'm a very logical writer. I use a lot of common sense. I sit and think to myself, okay, if you're on a run, how would you track somebody? Well, first of all, you got to get rid of your credit cards. You got to empty your bank account and never use it again. You have to get rid of your phones. You can't go into the larger cities because there's too many cameras. But if you can't, you go to the tiny little towns, you stand out like a sore thumb. So you have to hide out in medium-sized towns where you could still go unnoticed, but it's not so noticeable that Big Brother can see you, you know? So it's kind of a challenge to think like a fugitive.
Is is there a cost to Divinity's powers? I mean, I think of different healers that have been in comics, and well, one of the first one that pops to mind is Raven. You know, the early days of Raven in the New Teen Titans when George Perez was writing them, and it was like she was called an empath, but she could heal somebody. Like if your arm was cut, she could put her hand on your arm, heal the cut, and then the cut would appear on her arm, and then slowly heal back up. She would take the pain into herself. Is there anything that Divinity has to give in exchange for using her power, or
She gives her energy, so if it's a little something that she has to heal, she might feel a little tired, but if it's a big thing, she'll pass out.
okay? So there's
So and she hasn't learned how to yet. She hasn't learned yet to mitigate that. And she doesn't know what the full extent of her powers are yet. And we are going to learn with her. For instance, somebody asked me, well, can she raise the dead? Well, that's a very, very good question, but you'll find out
be
down
a
the road.
lot of energy to expend. I mean, that would imply that there are things that she can't heal. They're just too big. Not to going back to the origin, stage 4 cancer might just be something that every time I try to do this, I'm going to throw up, pass out, and it won't be done.
Another thing that she finds is that the ability to heal, to manipulate the human body doesn't necessarily have to be beneficial.
Aha. So we say heal in a very general sense, but really what she's doing is she's affecting the interior biology of somebody.
That's correct. So what if you reverse that? You know,
You could
so
grow tumors.
it's not only a offensive, but it can be a defensive weapon as well. How far will she be willing to go? She's only 11 years old. Okay, so she's really confused. She doesn't know herself at this point. Um, she's a tween. That's a terrible, terrible age for girls. Let me tell you this right straight up. Um, Half the time they're a kid, and half the time they're an adult. They're just very confused at this stage, and so they're either very clingy or you're not the boss of me. Uh, so it's very tumultuous. And at the end, and I'm going to give this away. At the end of issue 4, I'll give you guys a little spoiler. Zach doesn't want to put Olivia in harm's way, so he tells her that she needs to get away from them as far away as possible because this is a dangerous gig. And she says no, she wants to hang in there. She needs to take care of Divinity with him. He tries to talk her out of it, and she goes, so what are you going to do the first time she gets a period? He goes, yeah, come along. So
Good idea.
yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat the
You're
things
gonna
you have
take
to
her
deal
bra
with.
shopping in 2 years? Come on now.
Yeah,
There's gonna be things gonna happen.
yeah. And the first time she has a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, how's he gonna handle that? She needs a female point of view. So Zach and Olivia are not love interests, at least at this point in the
Yet,
game, and won't be for a
which is
while if
good.
they
They
ever.
shouldn't be, boom, instantly in love, boyfriend and
No,
girl.
because then you get the
Okay.
moonlighting effect, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you remember the show Moonlighting? Where
I
they
love
danced
moonlighting.
around each other? The TV
Yes,
show Moonlighting with Bruce Willis. And
yes. Some
yeah,
walk by. Yeah,
yeah, and they danced around each other for season after season, and it was magic, and as soon as they got together, then the show died, you know? The unresolved sexual tension was what kept people coming back for more. And
yeah,
when
and
when
the,
they
the the breaking of the occasional breaking of the fourth wall when she's like, I don't give a flying fig about this. Well, I'm confused. What's a flying fig? It's okay. They know.
So, we're
Oh,
not only dealing with the mystical in her ability to heal, which nobody knows where it came from, okay? So and it's not being addressed. Just to let you guys know, I am not going to address where the powers come from because, every person out there has their own spirituality and their own beliefs, and I'm not gonna step on anybody's because everybody has a valid point in their beliefs. So, I'm not gonna say if it came from God or Buddha or Allah or whoever, it just is.
she
You're
just
gonna
has.
they
Is
don't know.
she the only person in the world who can do stuff?
Yes, and this is another thing that I was very specific on, when I started this, is that this is not a superhero world. This is the real world, and she just happens to have a very unique talent because God knows we have plenty of real world villains that are just as scary as superhero villains out there. We don't need to cook up anybody. There's enough evil in the world to go around. So we didn't need to have supervillains and superheroes. She's it. Everybody wears regular clothes like blue jeans, no spandex, unless it's a yoga day.
Oh, sure. You know, that's my proof of God right there. Is that fancy. Um, I'll tell the story. I worked at a place that was several businesses in one business building,
Oh yeah.
and every business had their glass front. You walk down to your office, and there was an office upstairs that every other Wednesday was yoga day in the plaza, and it was hard to get a seat next to the windows on those days.
I imagine. I
But you
imagine.
could if you tried real hard.
They
Um,
definitely wouldn't be interested in my yoga classes because it's chair yoga with a bunch of old
oh,
people.
does Divinity get sick?
She to this far, she hasn't been able how to figure out how to heal her own self. That that's a question for the future.
Okay.
She for
Is
her, it came naturally and by accident, when her mother had a migraine, and she just wanted her mother to be better, and all of a sudden she was doing it. So she hasn't really explored the true depths of what she is and isn't able to do. Like I said, she's 11. She's got
yeah.
a whiles to go, before she can truly figure herself out in everything that she can do. And it's all a learning process. As she grows, her power develops or manifests in different ways.
I find it interesting that she's able to do something so complex as play with human physiognomy by instinct. Um, and she just wanted you to feel better, therefore you do. Well, what if she wants you to, you know, can she make you high? Just like, I want you to feel better. Whoa, a little too good there. I'm going somewhere with this because in Firestorm, the original Firestorm, the 1970s, early 80s Firestorm book, he could manipulate, inorganic materials and change them in an atomic structure. He's a high school kid. You can't just go doing that without just exploding things. He had to actually study chemistry, study biology, study physics so that he knew, oh, yeah, the atomic structure of this is this. And if I want to make it this, then I have to take this away and add this to that. And the professor's in the back of his head, telling him, says, you need to do this to make this work. She's not saying, okay, I need to, restrict the blood flow to the left
It's
side of the brain
instinctive
here.
with her. She lays her hands and she can feel there's something wrong here. And she'll fix it. Um again, her powers are a mystery to her and everybody else around her, and she does worry about what the repercussions are going to be. In the issue number 5, which is penciled, written, and I'm inking and coloring right now, we're going to see some of that, in which she has a nightmare, and in the nightmare is looking back on some of the people that she has healed, people and animals, and what could have gone wrong.
Oh.
Uh, and that's a nightmare, like you said. Would feel really good, feel really, really good. I don't feel pain ever again, you know.
Yeah. Well,
So that
and
is going to be
you know,
touched on.
that's one of my other questions is how permanent or temporary are her you know, adjustments? You know, headaches are things that come and go. Does mom never get a headache again,
Oh,
or did she
mom's
just
dead now,
get a
so.
bad headache? Yeah.
And we will touch upon the fact, what she be able to raise the dead or not? But that's down the road. That's in like the issues 9 through 12, I think.
We're never going to know why she can do it. It's just
No.
not even as a like, here's the final chapter and this is why this has all been happening.
No.
All right.
So, but people can put their own spin on it.
I can respect that. I like that actually.
I've read enough books and fan fiction to know that everybody is willing to put their own spin on a story to suit their own personal views.
Yeah.
You know,
my opinion is that if you've gone so long with something about the hero left unexplained, you can no longer ever explain it. It's just, you know, you can never know the Joker's real name because, you know, we've never known it before, so you can't give it to him now. And the same was true for me with Wolverine. You can't know why he's the way he is. He's Logan. He's got a mysterious past. That's all we know. It's been that way forever. Past stays mysterious. I actually had an interview with Paul Jenkins, who wrote, you know, Logan, the origin for him. And I embarrassingly asked him, it's like, what was it like when Marvel came to you and said, you know, hey, you're going to write the definitive origin. You're going to give him his backstory. You're going to show how all this came to be. Like, you know, and I went into my whole, you know, you don't mess with the stuff, you know, you remove the mystery thing. And he said, well, actually, that was my idea. Okay.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
my toenails are scratching my uvula here. Let me extract it.
Yes.
And you go on and tell me some more about this story that you wrote. I
Yeah,
still
that's
think
something I
Logan
never
should be
planned to address, is where the powers came from. I'm going to leave that up to the individual reader to spin it however they see fit.
and never have anyone else with power show up.
No.
Okay. That's keep her unique. It's like, you know, there was nobody else with superpowers in Watchmen but Dr. Manhattan. That's what made him unique. There were people who tried to be, but
I've had a lot of people say this is an interesting spin. So I prefer to keep it interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it keeps her unique. Approaching the top of the hour here. How far do you see this going? You gave some issue numbers that were like way in the double digits, but
Well, I'm hoping it'll go for a while. You know, I have no end issue yet, but obviously a lot of this depends on how popular it becomes. I absolutely need people to jump on board this crowdfunder. It's got a ways before it reaches its goal, and I would love to surpass this goal by a long shot. We gave it a fairly low goal so that it would obviously make goal, but we also hope to greatly exceed our goal. One of the things I'd like to do as a stretch goal is to actually have 3D printed necklaces of hers. But we'll see. We'll see how far it goes. Even if you cannot afford to jump on the crowdfunder itself, even if you just shared the crowdfunder to all your friends on your own social media sites, that's a huge help, and I would be eternally grateful to those of you who did that.
So folks, again, if you're on YouTube, the link is right below the video. If you're on X, pause it, copy it down, write it down, type it in, or go to YouTube and then you can just click it. Just leave X for a second. We're not making any money on either one of them. Does no skin off my nose.
And it's not hard to find me. I'm the only Barbara Kaalberg on the internet, So you type in that, and other than my sister-in-law, and I don't think she has an internet presence. If she does, she's just never on. We're the only two Barbara Kaalbergs in the entire world, so it's kind of tough to miss me. You can track me down on all my socials very easily, and I have a link tree on every one of my socials that will take you to all my other socials, and my biography, and my bibliography, and all kinds of different things.
Which is huge. You've been doing so many books. Like
Yes.
you've got some of Barb's work. If you collect comics, you've got some of Barb's work in your
Probably. I've had people come up to my shows, and I keep a 4-page, small typed pages with me of my bibliography that people will scroll through, and they'll say, "Well, what have you done?" And I'll say, "Well, here you go." And they'll go, "Oh, I have this one." And every single person that I've done that with, they'll recognize something on the list that they've done, that I've done.
That's you're doing journeyman work at that point.
Mhm.
I had a question. I don't know what it was. Oh yeah, the length of the story ongoing. They'll have to always be on the run. They're going to be David Banner in the television series, but it's not going to be the whole story. The whole story is that we're on the run.
No.
There'll be
Just like think of Supernatural. Supernatural, there was a road show, right? And every episode, they seem to have a different adventure, but there was always this thing looming over them, Sam's powers or whatever, But they would break from the normal storyline to have these adventures, and that's what I'm going for. This is a road show.
So you're a Supernatural fan?
Oh God, yes. I am huge.
I've watched 2% of it, of the whole series. Enough to where I'm like familiar with it, but even having only watched 2%, I have a favorite episode.
I've got a shelf back there that's got a little Impala on it. So yeah, I'm that, and I'm an Iron Man girl as well. So especially,
so did you? What did you think of Scooby Natural?
that was really funny. I thought I'm not a huge Castiel fan, so that's one thing. But I love the Scooby Natural because they really made the whole the Dean eating the sandwich. He's got his mouth.
Yes.
That was funny.
Yes. And we broke the characters. We can't just leave them this way. We've got to put them back.
We gotta walk it back. They can't know what reality really is.
Wait a second, that's a real ghost. Ghosts are real? No, that can't work. Oh, and okay, folks, get Divinity. Make this thing go 64% of the way there, but it needs to be 1,200% of the way there.
Please,
comic books need a lot more money.
Yep. So. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. The story is good. I've been told. I've got the thumbs up from both Kevin Van Hook of Bloodshot fame and Maggie Thompson, the grande dame of comics. She loves it. So these people love it. You're going to love it.
All right. Folks, hit the link. Go out there, put some money behind it. I'm going to because, I've got 1 through 3, so I've got to get 4 now.
Thank you.
Reading the story. Barb, always a pleasure having you on. I'm glad that you reached out and we set aside a time to do this because I don't do this a whole bunch anymore, but there are still people that I do want to talk to. And you are on the list.
Thank you. You are too. And pet those kitties for me.
I will do that.
I'm currently kittyless, and I'm going through withdrawals, so you're going to have to pet them for me.
Yes, I give kittens bath.
Yes.
They'll make themselves stink. Folks in the chat, thank you all for being here tonight. We don't have a show without you. We're just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise. So we need you here. And of course, as always, while you were here, We just hope you had a blast. Good night,
I did.
everybody.
Good night.